All right, so far we've learned about the territories of the Mexican-American War. Were they going to be free? Were they going to be slave states? We've also talked about the Fugitive Slave Act. The third reason that caused the Civil War is the Dred Scott decision. Now, Dred Scott, he was a Missouri slave. His owner purchased him and then had him in Missouri, and he spent a number of years. His master took him out of Missouri, and they went to Wisconsin, which was a free territory. And Dred Scott worked for his master there for years. Now, technically, that should be illegal. He was taken to a free territory, but kept as a slave. Now, eventually, he is brought back to Missouri, and Dred Scott uses a very interesting argument here. He says that he should be free because his master took him into a territory that was an illegal act and then kept him as a slave, and because of that alone, he should be free. It's a very interesting argument, and one that, in hindsight, we look back and he said he was right. Unfortunately, Dred Scott took this case and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court, they generally do a pretty good job. Once in a while, we look back at history and we can see where they've punted or they've made just a really terrible decision. This is an example of the Supreme Court making an absolutely terrible decision. And the basis for that is they actually end up using the Constitution to justify slavery. Here's what they ruled. They said, Dred Scott, you are not a citizen. Because you are a slave, you cannot use the court system. You have no constitutional right to use the court system. They ruled that living in a free territory did not change his slave status. And here's where they actually use the Constitution. They say the Fifth Amendment protects your master's property rights. You are his property. The Fifth Amendment says that the government cannot take away your property without being compensated for it. If we set you free, there's no compensation for your master. Therefore, no, the Fifth Amendment, it's an amazing argument. The Fifth Amendment protects your master's rights because you are his property. And they also ruled, it's interesting, they said slavery in the Western Territories was unconstitutional. Again, Dred Scott, unfortunately, he went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, no, you are still a slave. Now, whatever happens to Dred Scott, he and his wife Harriet, they were purchased by the sons of his first owner. Dred Scott, the owner that took him up to Wisconsin, was not his first owner, but the sons of his first owner purchased him and his wife. They were childhood friends. They then turned around and they freed the Scotts. They gave him their freedom. Unfortunately for Dred Scott, he died within a year of gaining his freedom. So the third reason, we talked about 1, 2, now we're at number 3. The third reason for starting the Civil War, the Dred Scott case.